Haley,
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And you?
Wonderful. We're
You?
doing well.
Yeah, we're
We're
doing
we're
good.
getting.
I can see it. I can see it in you. You glow.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's also in part to me being a bit more focused on my health too.
Oh, good.
So it's like I've brought back in sort of these remedies that I used to use ages ago, and I
Uh-huh.
instantly noticed like, oh wow, I do
Yeah,
need to actually take a little bit more time to just do those things instead of just brushing them off. It's like, I don't have time for that.
yeah. Just a real for anyone who happens to be listening. Uh, Haley and the dude bought a house,
Well,
and
we're renting a house. We're renting a house that they're allowing us to clean up and take care of and supporting us with that too.
are they putting money into it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Okay. But they discovered mold and paint wouldn't stick to the wall, and so Haley has been inhaling paint and sawdust and all the dust that might go along with tearing down a wall and building a new one.
Right.
So, so Haley, the subject that I had in mind, and we don't need to do this, but um, when a friend uh, becomes an enemy, it's the soul, my soul, that suffers. The other person may not feel that way, uh, but I've been feeling lately that I needed to build some bridges,
Mm.
not because I want that person back in my life as a friend, but I don't want that person to be an enemy. I don't want that person to be a source of agitation in my mind, a part of a drama that comes up. And that's not good for me. And when it happens, I think, I don't want to go to my grave thinking about how much I'm angry at that person for not doing such and such. You
Mm.
know, that's not the life that I want to live. I want to be free, of all things that hinder my growth. And uh, and so I actually reached out to a few people, and one was easy. One is really hard, and I haven't heard back from a really well written note, I might add. Uh, so, what do you think of that?
Well, what is your, let's start with definitions so we're on the same page.
Okay.
What is your definition of an enemy? What does that feel like, and what do you consider an enemy?
Well, an enemy is somebody who uh, I feel hurt by and who continues to uh, hurt me, and um, and I don't want to think of them as an enemy.
Hmm. Oh,
I go ahead, please.
is it clear or is it right to say that an enemy is somebody that comes towards you with sort of bad intention, like with the intention of hurting you or harming you in a way?
Not really, Haley. It's all emotional. Uh, it's a disappointment in a person with whom you had a really good relationship at one time, years of close friendship, and then suddenly it all changed. And uh, and I participated in the change. I thought, all right, you know, we don't need you. We can continue on in our life. Um, uh, but I don't like that feeling.
Mm.
You know, uh, I don't like um, saying to Ray, she's such a bitch. I can't believe. Right? I don't want to. I don't want that word to come out of my mouth.
Mhm.
Uh,
There are a few words that I refuse to use, and that's one of them.
yeah, I don't want it to come out. And as a woman, I think, you'd feel much stronger than me, but it's on my radar that I don't want to use it either. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't want it to become part of my daily reality. Because I'm a drama queen. I I can lay in bed. Oh my God, the dramas I have with my publisher who still hasn't finished the book, and what I'm going to do, and what they might do, and then what I'm going to do back, and
The battles that we fight.
oh, and you lose all the sleep, you know, thinking about it. And so I said to Ray, I don't like this. I don't feel, to tell you, Haley, I don't feel as spiritual as I once did. I don't feel as spiritually grounded as I once did. And that troubles me. And I
Mm.
don't I don't want to live that way. So when I say it's the soul that suffers, when my feeling of the soul, feeling about the soul, is that it's my conduit, right, to higher power. It is the thing because, for a better word, there is no organ. That's the soul. It's that thing through which I grow, not physically, spiritually, and anything that muddles it is not good for it or me.
Mhm.
And so, let's say you and I had a big fight, and we decided we weren't going to do these podcasts anymore. Which could happen. People do these kind of things, and I'd feel really bad, and I'd reach out to you because I don't want to think of you as an enemy, right? And you may say, oh, fine, I just as soon not do our podcast anymore. And I'd say I'd be disappointed, but I'd let it go because the podcast isn't worth fighting for. The relationship is worth fighting for.
Mhm.
And if I have a, a bad relationship with you, and I consider bad that we're not loving each other, right? Maybe not to the degree we once did, right? Maybe you can't get that back, um, but it's missing, and it's been replaced by dark clouds, the Dementors from Harry Potter.
You know what, I somewhat resonate with this because I have felt to sort of, I have been lacking, or my spiritual side has had a leak. And I put it down to sort of the eclipse. We've just sort of closed an eclipse window. That was the full moon and the new moon yesterday. And, for me, the fix is always, what can I do that sort of stops the leak from the inside? And that's how I mentioned sort of bringing back those things that I used to do that I kind of said I didn't have time for. Those kind of help. And also just taking the time to sit and be with myself and to find that peace. So I understand and I can resonate with that sort of spiritual lacking and sort of that I need to do something about this.
Yes.
Because it does feel uncomfortable and it does feel very sort of fractured. When it comes to sort of the enemies, I'm going to say it. I don't think I have any enemies. I don't consider myself as having somebody with enemies. I'm sure somebody might say I'm their enemy. But there is one person who is my father. We've spoken about this, who I am constantly wondering what he's up to and what his next move is going to be. But I don't really see that as an enemy. I see that more as my work to be able to, again, stop that spiritual leak and to really get fully present with the world that is mine right now, that is fully present with me. My work there is really being able to sort of look back with nostalgia, not just with my dad, but there have been other people in my life that you do separate with because the growing is different. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just different. And you tend to look back and you came together for a reason. you had a good time together, whether it's a friend or a family member or a partner, you look back and you're like, wow, we had such a good time. How could that just go? Where did that go? Where did the love go?
Right. I like people saying that, friendships don't necessarily need to last a lifetime. They
Right.
they have a purpose, right?
They have a purpose. And I always use that moment to kind of stop the leak and have awareness of like, all right, you're leaking spiritual energy here because you're thinking about things that are not in your present. And it's, I try and turn it into a moment of gratitude. Like, how great, how lucky am I that I had that moment with that person when we were both at our best? Because we had to
Yeah,
be at our best to have such a good time together.
yeah,
And I send love. I always send love to even the people that I look back and I'm like, oof, that was toxic. I send love and I always hope that they're just as much as I'm enjoying life right now, they're enjoying life right now. And I find that not many people want to hear that. Not many people want to hear that it's okay to send love to people that you are no longer close with.
I
And it's
agree.
okay to wish that they're having a fantastic life. It's not that I'm doing it with a sense of sarcasm. I'm honestly saying,
No,
I really wish now that you have a better life. And, I do think that we're all smart, intelligent humans. We all have a sense of our soul. And if they're not reaching out to me and I'm not reaching out to them, I think we're on the same page in terms of I might miss you, but my life is still better without you in it.
yeah,
And that's
I,
also a hard pill to swallow that somebody's life is better without you in it.
yeah. I mean, I can't imagine anybody's life being better without me. uh, I, yeah, for me, uh, reaching out, even though it may not change anything, is to be able to say to myself, "You did the best you could,"
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and let this be the end of your dramas.
Yeah. Like this is
Right?
the line.
That's the line. We've crossed it. Uh, I'm real scared, seriously. In a month, the U.S. votes uh, president, and I'm really scared physically about what's going to happen between friendships and relationships uh, because it's such an intensely emotional event that's going on for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever candidate you're following, you think uh, is the best. And those who follow the other are out of their mind. And so when one wins, you know, uh, I believe that uh, sadly, everyone loses in a way because it's going to take a long time to heal if it ever heals. You know, the Civil War has never healed. It's still going on in
Mm-hmm.
terms of North and the South. It's amazing to me that it could linger so long. And I think this war, and it's a cultural war in many ways,
Yeah, I understand.
uh, is um, is going to be tough on people in the country and tough on the country. Uh,
Yeah, I fully have compassion for the fear that you are feeling and the fear that everybody in the US is feeling. And I think anybody that has connections into the US is feeling. I think it's an incredibly scary time. And I think trying to sugarcoat it or turn it into something that, oh no, everything's going to be fine, love just wins. We can, take that step back and be like, yes, love just wins, but there is an enormous amount of stuff that has to happen for love to win.
right.
And
And,
that's
and
not comfortable. That's not fun stuff.
yeah, and it has to be sincere and wholehearted, I
Yeah.
believe. You were talking about people objecting to you wishing love to people from your past, and how others would say, don't do that. They're gone. That's yesterday's news, and they hurt you.
Yeah.
um, if you on, say, Facebook post, we need to love the people who are voting for so and so, right? You'd get you'd get so many people saying no, 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 no. This is war,
Yeah.
right? And and it's not over, right? So my feeling is, I don't have the power except one by one. I often use the grocery store as my village, but one by one, you make sure that you continue to connect with people.
I think for me, the answer there is being fully aware and fully committed to your spirituality. And just like we were saying, sort of having the awareness of like, I feel the leak, I feel fractured, and actually doing something about it, taking responsibility for it, and making sure that when you go into your grocery store, your village, you're not leaking your soul.
Well, if I can give you an example, I just made it up, but if you have a favorite cousin, who you have great memories of growing up with, lost touch, but still adore them, and you find out that they voted for the candidate you hate, what happens to that? And it's not one cousin, maybe. It's a nephew, a child. How do you heal the emotional rift? And that's, Haley, I think why I have been thinking of this, even though it's personal to me, not the election, but
the healing,
sending a letter to somebody with whom I feel a rift, hoping that it will somehow at least start to create a bridge. Not that we're ever going to get back to where we were, but at least start. The feelings that I have as a result of having enemies, whatever, people that are not joyfully in your life, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good, and I don't want to live that way. I sort of feel like, see what you think of this metaphor. Our choices in life are our steering wheel, right? Mm-hmm. And whatever direction we, drive the car or the wagon or whatever, that's where it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are results of choices,
mm-hmm.
right? Could be great, right? But it could not be so good for your life and so when you lose a friend, I feel like it's losing a wheel of this vehicle that obviously has more than 4 wheels.
It's a train.
Let's make it's got tons of wheels, but the absence of one rolling away down the hill impacts the whole ride for me.
I think my perspective on that and my learning of life is focusing on what comes. So with the absence of that wheel, something else comes. There's a new wheel coming to make sure that you're in equilibrium so that you don't topple over and have a big snap. So I think it's, in using your metaphor in terms of your choice is your steering rod, you can absolutely choose to focus on what you've lost. Or you can choose to focus on what you are gaining.
And what happens if the wheel becomes an anchor? It doesn't just roll away. It's anchored to the cart, and you know your life is not going to be uh, free. And I'm trying to uh, using the metaphor. I'm really trying to make friends with the anchor.
I think it's also making friends with the anchor and also loosening so that you can untether the anchor.
Yeah.
And, that resonates with me too, because my work at this current time is, loosening so that I can let go of the anchor because I've got so used to the anchor
Mm-hmm.
that feeling that loosen, I have a panic attack because I'm like, how do I live without the anchor?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, I have made the choice that I actually want to live without the anchor. I want to move forward freely without the anchor. And so it is my work currently, things that I'm working on every single day to just take that breath and just loosen a little bit, a little bit, a little bit every day with the intention that at some point I will have enough slack to unhook the anchor
Yeah. And I
and
want
then move forward.
I'm hoping that the anchor also wants to be unhooked.
I think that, again, having humility and also love for humanity, I don't think we're all dumb. I
Yeah.
think that, if we're feeling something like I want to be free of this anchor, the other person is feeling it too. Whether they can understand what that feeling is or put words to that feeling, we all want to be free. We all want to be in a place of not suffering. And I think that goes back to what I was saying. Sometimes, there are people in this world whose lives are better because we're not in it, because we're the anchor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Uh, my first, I was told that my first boyfriend, after we broke up, wanted somebody to mess my face. So there was a
This,
lot.
again,
There's,
I love humans. I don't think
yeah.
we're all stupid, but sometimes there's just things where I'm just like, I just don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
there's no need to be mean. There's no need to be in a space where you're so desperate that you think your only option is violence, whether that's mental, verbal, emotional, physical, however you want to call it. So that is a big gray space, which I think, obviously we haven't sorted that out in the history of humanity to this point. So I'm not going to try and do it in a day. But it's,
Yeah.
I think, choices again. I have made the choice to choose peace, to end my suffering. And when I feel the suffering, to pay attention to it and do something about it. I made that choice. And I made it very consciously. At the same time, I could have. And every day I can still make the choice to be mean, to be angry, to lash out and say it's everybody else's fault. I can make that choice just as easily.
Yeah.
But I think, we have to move into a direction where we are not only conscious of the choice, but we are taking responsibility for our choices. And we're taking accountability. So, in writing your notes and being able to say, you know what, I may not be building the bridge to the past, I'm just building a bridge to my peace. I think it's, my idea of taking responsibility as being able for you to be like, able to be like, I'm in peace now. I sent the note, I'm in peace now.
I agree. I agree. Even putting the burden that they have to reply is not choosing peace.
It's not
Because,
choosing peace.
no, because you're gonna have more dramas
It's
about.
building resentment. You're choosing resentment. Now you have fuel for resentment.
Yeah. I think in Haley you said the real me. I have the choice to be the real me. I I agree that all of us have the option to be a different me. You
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, I have to choose loving kindness. For some reason, it doesn't come hard to me. You know, uh, I am outgoing. I love people. I really do. I mean, people who do dumb things at that moment. I don't really love their behavior, but uh, I love people. But that's a choice always too.
Mhm.
Uh,
I
is and I agree with you that wishing them love, even if you don't write that note, uh, is how you let go. It may not be how they let go, but it's how you let go and
it's
say, "I
how
did this."
and I see it as how I stop participating in that cycle of resentment, that cycle of violence. Because doing the same thing and being a part of it and just building it and being like, well, they never responded, so now I'm going to send an even nastier message to get a response. That's not love. That's
Yeah,
trying to make a point that you're better than somebody else. So
yeah.
I think for me, always trying to take a step back and to be able to take responsibility and accountability for my choices and for my experience of life, because ultimately my choices have created my experience to date and are creating my experience in the future too. So in taking responsibility for that and being like, all right, I know now, I've had enough experience of this life thing that making these kind of choices makes peace, makes me feel peace, makes me feel whole. These kind of choices feel like shit.
Is that one of the words on your list that you don't use?
Oh no, I use shit and I also use fuck. Those are about the only two words that I use.
And I think they're great words. I don't know why people.
I
I really, if you eliminated them from the vocabulary, people wouldn't know what to say to them.
and I think they're a wonderful expression. Like they're a wonderful stress relief because when you say them different ways,
Yeah,
you release stress.
yeah, yeah.
There's the person who is obviously a proponent for these
And,
words.
and there are people who just are very uncomfortable with that.
They're
And
very
so I
uncomfortable with
say,
it.
I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable, but it it best expresses what I'm feeling at the
Yeah.
moment.
And I've learned again through my experience and my choices, there are some words that I refuse to say and I cannot hear them. If somebody says them, I'm like, I need to get away from this room. I just don't need to get away from you. I need to get away from the room. Because the way that they say them is with such malintent. It's with that tone of resentment.
Oh, okay.
And my experience with those words is that they've never been used with good intention. The other two words that I use, shit and fuck, they get used with good intention a whole lot of the time. And I was trying to explain to my dude, because there's a whole world of these words in Spanish too.
Uh-huh.
And we were trying to sort of sort out when do you use these two words? And I was like, wow, there's multiple reasons and ways
Even
of using them.
in a card game, you draw
So,
a card that doesn't help you at all.
but again, it comes back to the choices that even when I use those two words, I use them from a place of this is my character of fun. It's not resentful. And I have made that choice very early on to not use words in a resentful way. And if I do use them in a resentful way, any word, I catch myself and I backtrack. I will cancel it. And I'll be like, wait a minute. That was my bad. I used a bad word. Can I rephrase?
When I was in eighth grade, and we had just moved, so it was my first time in that school. And then I was going on to high school. And uh, guys made fun of me because I didn't say damn or hell. Now that's how Catholic I was, up in eighth grade. Uh, I didn't think that the words were needed, and in my life, and but I didn't argue with them about it. I didn't. They didn't. They made fun of me, but behind my back. So
Mm,
I was never in a position to have to explain But boy, once I got to high school, I used.
I don't use them a whole lot at all.
You
Like,
don't use damn or hell.
mm-mm. No.
What?
And they're
What the
not
heck?
bad. They're not like as terrible as certain words for me. Like they're just, I don't use them in my vocabulary.
You don't say like I don't give a damn.
No. I will say I don't care or it's not important to me.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I don't care or who cares?
Yeah.
Let it go.
Let
But
it.
I think, sort of bringing all of the words that we use into sort of our theme today, which is sort of that spiritual leak, we have to make a choice, in terms of if we're going to make the world better and if we're going to show up at your village or your grocery store, we have to make a choice in terms of what words am I going to use? What words reflect the real me?
You know that the first thing in the morning, uh, Ray and I start with, "Let me be today the person I aspire to be," and you have no idea how often that comes up during the day for me. You know, and I'll say to myself, "Is that the person you aspire to?"
Isn't
No,
that amazing?
it is. We say several prayers in the morning, and sometimes while I'm reading them, I'm thinking about dinner. And sometimes when or I'm in some other drama, um, but at least it's a grounding. Ray and I both feel we miss uh, the prayer of St. Francis and the serenity prayer and the readings from the Tao. If we don't do them, we miss.
Absolutely. You feel that leak.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. And I think that is the power of these mantras, of these prayers, is that if you do it consistently and practice consistently, when you do feel the leak, it's awareness of like, hang on a minute, I'm not in alignment. I have to take responsibility for that alignment and I have the tools to come back into alignment. I
yes.
think we very often forget that being the best possible version of oneself is consistent work. It's
You
not, it doesn't just end after your prayers in the morning.
uh, there was a spiritual teacher who I loved, who talked about what vibration are you at? Are you in the basement, right? Using words against people that are on Haley's list not ever to use, right?
And every time you message me, you use that word.
No, yeah, yeah. But are you in the basement, throwing negative energy around at other people? If so, you have a choice. You don't need to stay there. You
Mm-hmm.
can come out and you can actually choose to go up to the highest level and insert yourself there, right? It's a choice. But
Mm-hmm.
in order to do it, you can't say, "Oh, look what I just did." You know, you suckers down in the
Yeah.
basement. That's not
You're
what it's
so
about.
low, so low
Yeah.
vibe.
You know what your best self is. I know what my best self is. Uh, and I'm not my best self all the time. And when I recognize that I'm not my best self, uh, that's when I feel the need to do something about it.
And I think to your point too, where the US is today, oh gosh, it's incredibly difficult to be
Mm.
your best self when you are surrounded and inundated with fear.
Uh, well, I'm not going to go there.
Good choice. Make good
Yeah,
choices.
yep, 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 yep. You and I can have a private conversation because I don't want to add, you know,
But I
to
think, what can we do? What are your tools? Obviously, writing letters and sort of pacifying your path is one of your tools to sort of plug that leak. But in this time, where it is going to be incredibly tense, it is going to be incredibly fearful and very incendiary through January. what are some of the tools that you rely on to kind of make sure that your spiritual soul is whole?
Uh, I I write, uh, and uh, writing helps you clarify your thinking. For me, uh, it also gives me a choice of being kind or being snippy. And something bad happened. We lost. Maybe it was after Trump won his first time uh, uh, against Haley against oh good Lord,
Hillary,
huh?
Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton. One of the crazy things about getting older is words just float around you.
Well, I think too, it's incredibly difficult with the pace of change and the
Yeah,
pace how information is coming in. It's incredibly difficult to keep track of time. Like 8 years ago feels like centuries.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the anesthesia is still doing a trick on me.
Absolutely. You
Yeah,
have it in your system for a good 6 months.
at least. But what I wrote, Haley, after the election the next day, because that was an emotional one too. Uh,
Mhm.
I I I wrote the Serenity Prayer on Facebook. That's all I wrote, and so many people wrote back and said, I needed that. I needed that. So when I post, I try to post in a way that's I try that's uplifting. You
Mhm.
know, if I get in one of my dramas, you know, I look to write something that's sarcastic or whatever, but that's not my best me. Uh, my best me is pulling forth from my mind positive takes on things. There was just to give you an example, there was this statement made by one politician that if you don't have children, uh, right, you're not, uh, okay. So what did she say? You don't have humility.
Right.
Is that it? Yeah,
Yeah, it was basically like you're just no good to society.
yeah.
No living
And
on the land.
so I wrote, without naming names or political parties, that my mom had 7 children, but she was a humble person before she met my dad. And my great aunts and uncles who were single and never had children were among the most humble people I knew. And my mom's best friend, her cousin, was a nun, and she was amazingly humble. So I don't think it takes having children to be humble. And that's I just left it. I didn't intentionally stir a political pot. I reflected on a thing in the news.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Your personal experience of
and tried to put
people.
you know uh, a positive spin
Mm-hmm.
or a positive perspective on uh, and that got a strong response because there's so many people without children, and to damn them because they don't um, is not the best self of that person.
I know. Ooh, ooh. I, I think humility is something that comes with the grace of life experience. And some reach that place of humility and grace at a very old age of 90 before they're knocking on the door of death and be able to be like, oh, I get it now. Some people get it at 20, some people get it at 40, some people never get it. And I think it's, again, we have the choice to be able to look at that information and meet it with resentment, or we have the choice to meet it with, I'm going to build a bridge of peace here. How do
Yes,
I build that bridge of peace? And knowing that your bridge of peace is just for you. Other
it is.
people have to do their own bridge. They have to build their own bridge.
But you can help.
I think you can help if you're asked to help, but I think you can also inspire through your words, your actions, and also the life that you're living. And so, when we look at where the US is today and knowing that it's just going to get even more and more hectic and chaotic, what can we do? And I think we also have a choice there to sit and be like, there's nothing I can do. I mean, like, I'm not going to go run for president. But I think we can also have the choice to sit and be like, well, why am I here right now? Why am I alive and experiencing this right now? And these are my words. This is what I see, not your words. When I look at you, I think the world needs you. The US needs you. There is a reason why you are at this time in your life and able to write with freedom without censorship so that you can put those kind of words into a wider audience. I think that's enough. That's enough service, and that's enough of, I did my job today.
I did, yeah, I did my job, but there's more work to do.
And there's more work to do tomorrow. God willing, you have the gift of tomorrow. And tomorrow you wake up and you be like, how can I put out love today? How can I be of love and how can I put out love? But I think in that, like I was saying, we have to consistently check our spiritual meter. Where am I leaking? And fix that before we go out into the world. And I think we have to be super conscious of every choice that we make and every word that we're going to use. And we have to be that detailed. Because if we're not, we're going to get swallowed up by that fear engine. We're going to say silly things like childless people are no good.
Uh, yeah.
I think,
Which
the benefit of this time is, I do firmly believe in humanity. I do firmly believe in love. There's very little, I don't think there's a whole lot anybody can say to me that will shake that belief and that faith. I do believe that there is good to come out of this. And that's not to discount how terribly difficult it is. I'm very aware of it. But I do hope and I do have faith that in this process, there are more people stopping to break the pattern and just to say, let me listen to you. Where are you coming at from that point? What is your background in being able to say that? Like, why do you think childless humans are no good?
mm-hmm.
And I think that is happening. I think we don't hear about it because it's not fun. It's just like it's not fun to hear that it's okay to send love.
There's Haley, there is so much going on that you and I have no idea.
There's an enormous amount, and I think the most I can do is to have faith that it's trending for good. It's trending for love. And, ultimately there is more love in this world than hate.
And that, we will survive it. That we can have feelings about the results of the election, but we can survive it. It will have
we still have a choice.
Yeah, but and we need to be aware that the election will have a huge impact on the rest of the world. We don't think about that in terms of what countries we support, what organizations we get out of, where we spend our money, and well, enough of that. That's true in terms of, and
I think it's a very big election. I think there's a lot on it, and I think it's just it's not an easy time. And I think the
Mhm.
best thing that we can do is to monitor our spiritual wholeness
So I'll
and to
keep
take
calling
care of
you up.
ourselves.
I'll keep calling you up. Haley, can we talk?
Absolutely.
Yeah, come on.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I think that there's a reason why we are alive and experiencing this. I think there is a reason that we've had the life experience that we have had, the perspectives that we have. There's a reason for it. And, even in these times where it's difficult to find good things, they're there. It's just difficult to find them. It's easier to forget the privilege it is to be alive. And regardless of what the situation is after this election, it's still a privilege to be alive. It's still a privilege to be here.
Yes. Haley, I think you were talking about good deeds. You, you have to look for them
Mm-hmm.
and you have to smile with them, right? Uh, one of the things that amazes me is that when I walk through our garden and see a single hibiscus bloom, you know, orange with red in the center and yellow pistils, I I have to stop. Everything else is out of my mind. I have to just
That's
look
what
at this.
matters. I think
Pardon?
there is a miracle, and that's what actually matters is that we're present for the miracles that are actually in front of us, not
Yeah.
50 miles away or 1,000 miles away. It's like you have created this world so that you can enjoy it. You made that choice. Have the humility to enjoy it. Have
And
the humility to be in the privilege of you created this. You asked for it. Enjoy it.
yes, I planted the plant
Yeah.
and welcomed
You
it to,
nurtured it.
yes. Uh, but I also thanked it before I moved on. I said, thank you for being
Mhm.
so beautiful today. You've cheered me. And I think that we're surrounded by good deeds.
Absolutely.
Sebastian went charging down our cul-de-sac across a busy street. And fortunately, a neighbor was across the street, which is why he ran, but she was stopped traffic. But that's happened over and over and over again. And all those people, all those good people, you know, who stopped or saw him running and stopped and picked him up, when he was a puppy and got out. That's goodness.
It's good.
Even if we went to lunch and found out that we were voting for different people, that's stopping the van and swooping up the dog and bringing him back. That's goodness. And it shows that in all of us are capable of it.
There's this is, there's always that struggle between being ignorant and being fully present, fully aware. And this reminds me of a story that to this day is key to me. But when I was working at Barclays Bank in New York, which was a horrific experience, we was in a closet there, turned a closet into an office and put like 8 people into this closet. Fantastically, possibly some of the best 8 people I've ever worked with. And we were all in the same spot. And one of the guys went out for lunch and he came back and we're like, "Oh, Emmanuel, you came back." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I came back and I saw downstairs that there was a guy that had no legs, no arms, was begging for money, and he had money in his bowl. And he was saying thank you to anybody who dropped money in his bowl." And he's like, "Yeah, it's not that bad."
Yeah.
And we sort of made a joke that, like, no, it is that bad if that's now your standard of it's not that bad. And, we made a joke back then just because I didn't have the awareness that I have today. I didn't have the perspective that I have today. But I say that it always comes back to me to be like, come back to that humility of it doesn't take a whole lot for us to choose happiness. And I think we get so caught up in feeding the fear and feeding how bad it is and admonishing people for saying something good about it, or that maybe there's good, or maybe there's a miracle in there, that we feel guilty and we feel that we are being less honorable if we look for good, or if we turn a terrible story into something good. Every time we do that, every time we look at something terrible that we would say, my life would suck if I didn't have arms or legs, and I was sitting on the side of the street because that was the best I could do. Every time we look at that and say, wow, even that person can be happy, we raise our vibration. We come out of the basement.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think there we are taking responsibility for what we're putting out into the world.
Right. We're assuming, that without the arms and legs, that the person is miserable.
And that's the same comment as the childless people.
Right.
It's the same thing. I assume your life sucks.
Right. Thank you for the gift of awareness that I got from this encounter. In those situations, if I have the time, I want to talk to the person.
I now
my name's Brian. My name's Brian. What's your name?
And I always say thank you. I always leave them saying thank you, like you made my day.
Absolutely. You gave me an opportunity to bring out my best.
Yeah. And just a moment of like, chill out.
Yes.
Chill out. Like, let's focus on some good stuff. Let's focus on what good can you actually put out? What love, what peace can you do today that will encourage other people now to do something similar?
Yeah. You stopping and talking with this person, every person passing by saw it, and most of them reflected on it. Am I the kind of person who would stop and talk? Is she being hustled?
Yeah.
Should we allow this panhandling on the street? No. Or, boy, I wish I had done that. I wish I had stopped.
And I think those are life's little moments of the hibiscus miracle. Just like you were saying, we have to be present with what is in front of us. Like
That's right.
50 feet.
Yeah. Right here.
And if we can hold that energy, then I think we're being of really amazing service.
And you know this, but our conversations bring me such joy. I never get off from our conversations and feel down.
No.
And I thank you for that, for being the person you are and sharing yourself with me.
It is a privilege. Every call is a privilege.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful moment to really share. To share, to remind, to share, to remind, to share, to remind. And I think we're doing a good job.
I feel like I know that you helped me think about things in different ways, and that's good for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sitting and reading Pema Chodron for, here's some wisdom you need to think about.
It's again, I think it's the privilege of life, and the privilege that we have to be alive today is that there's really good stuff still happening. Really good stuff.
And that we're here to help it continue.
And to feed it. We have the choice. Do you want to put your energy into this? Or do you want to put your energy into fighting all of those battles? 91% which never see the light of day.
Right. And on your deathbed, what are you going to be thinking about? Are you going to be thinking about the person who abused you,
Or didn't respond to your letter? How dare you not take my apology?
I can't believe they're not paying. Ray, will you please do something after I'm gone? Yeah, that's not what I want to think about.
No.
I want to think about all the lovely aspects of my life, and I live with gratitude. I do. Um, uh, I like being me, and I like growing, and I have a lot of growth ahead of me.
Yeah, we still have a lot of growth to go. And I think we're
Yeah,
reminded of that every time that there's a spiritual leap. We're like, damn it,
yeah. It is a
we're still
reminder,
growing.
and it's a reminder to okay, let's get things in order
Hmm.
so that you can move on
And
out of this muck. It's
yeah, don't let the muck get to you. It is difficult. It's probably more difficult than it has been for many years, but
yeah.
it's not impossible.
No, it isn't impossible.
It's
Uh,
definitely doable.
and we all have the option of doing it with the Holy Spirit if we choose,
We all
if
have.
if we believe that, which I do.
And I
That
believe it too. So
yeah. Well,
we
there's
continue, and whoever
yes,
wants to listen to
yeah.
us,
The world will go on because we both believe it.
it still goes on, and we're still creating a beautiful
Yeah.
world because we're both happy.
Yes, and we share it.
Yeah.
That's important. Loving kindness.
Loving kindness is it.
It is it.
So I think, the message today is let's go and be loving kindness and inspire others to be loving kindness.
and and don't let yourself get weighed down by dramas uh, that um,
Not true.
they're not true, and just let go of them. Send love to the person. I know we've run off over time, but send love to the person and wish them the best life they can possibly have.
Absolutely. And, even when they do, say one good thing, even though 100 things have been just questionable at best, give them acknowledgement that they said a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I was, another conversation, but I was pleasantly surprised. I saw a video or a piece of the vice president debate where JD Vance expressed compassion towards Tim Walz. And I was just like, you go, boy. Well done.
Yes, yes,
Well done. You have compassion. Do more of it.
yeah, yeah. Let us see more of it.
Hmm. Well, I hope you have a wonderful week being fully present with the miracles that are in your life, in your garden, in your home.
Yeah.
And we will see you soon.
Thank you, honey. I love
Lots
you.
of love to you.
Bye.
Bye.